Hello, kids, and welcome to our final botany presentation. Yes, this is going to be it. And for our final topic, the last one for you guys I'll be doing on plants is going to be extreme plants. Yeah, I totally had to take things to extreme. What's the biggest, the smallest, the biggest flowers? Well, you'll see. Let's just continue on. Let's just go with the show, and I'm going to show you the extremes that plants can reach. For example, we're going to start with, of course, the biggest. What's the biggest plant? Well, remember, kids, we have to specify the difference between tallest and biggest. I'm going to show you the biggest one. That's this big puppy here. It's called the giant sequoia. It is a massive tree. It can almost reach, well, 300 feet plus. And its mass, its girth is amazing. Look at this. Look at the size of that trunk. There's a person. Do you see the person down the bottom? Yeah, that's not Photoshop. That's literally how big this tree is. Here's another shot here. If you go to some of the national parks that have these trees, some people have basically drilled giant holes through the center of the trunk, and you can drive through them. They are that big. So these things are massive. Are they the tallest? As this illustration here shows, no, the redwood you see is the tallest. The sequoia, though, is the biggest. And another interesting fact, the sequoia seed, the seed for this one, it's tiny, 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 little tiny seed. And that little tiny seed can make one of the largest living organisms in the world, the sequoia. And so it's the biggest change from the tiny seed to the biggest adult form of this organism is the sequoia tree. And there's a blue whale, so there's a comparison. Some people say, oh, the blue whale, what about that? Well, it's pretty big too, but it's nothing compared to the sequoia. So, and they compare it there with the space shuttle and the Statue of Liberty and things you can also compare it with. But yeah, the giant sequoia is the largest, not only, well, largest plant out there. Yes, I was going to say organism, but we're going to learn some more about that one later on. The oldest. Yes, trees can get very, very old. The sequoias and redwoods normally get well over 2,500 years old. Unfortunately, they found this out sometimes by cutting them down and counting the rings. That's a true story. So there's a lot more out there now that they're not cutting down that can get easily that old. But what is the oldest? According to what we found out from these plants, it's the bristlecone pine. They have found some of these in the United States, and through the methods they use to age them, which including taking core samples from them, they're approximately 5,000 years old. That's a very good approximation too. They've done the best science they can to figure that out. And the trick here is, okay, so it's 5,000 years old. Which one is it? The one on the left or the one on the right? They won't tell us. The exact location of the one that they've said to be 5,000, and probably the ones around it are very close to that as well, is unknown. It could be this one, could be that one. They're not telling us, which is kind of cool. They don't want people to go and try and find the oldest tree and then, oh, I think I'll break off a branch and bring it home with me. So they don't actually disclose where they are, which again, I think is kind of cool. What's next then? We're going to look at this beautiful forest of what's called quaking aspen. In Canada, we call them trembling aspens. I don't know if it's the same in the United States, but I kind of said, hey, trembling aspen. And they said, no, it's quaking aspen. Canadian, American stuff. But here's the trick. Trembling aspens and other poplar trees will often, well, they do reproduce through their roots. In other words, if you planted one poplar tree, the roots would spread out around it. Here's a picture here. And out of the root comes new trees. It's a very popular way of doing things. And here's another picture here of it. So in fact, that one tree is not spreading out seeds and making new ones a little bit different. It is actually reproducing itself. It is cloning itself. It is putting out a root and making more trees around it that are exactly the same as it. In other words, when you look at this picture, this is Pando. It is not a forest. It is one tree. No, I'm not making this up. All the trees you see in this picture, all the green ones in the front at least, are all connected by a root system that is connected with itself. In other words, if you want to tree on one end and you follow the root system, you get to tree on the other end. It's approximately, the entire organism is approximately 80,000 years old. That is what they found so far. And it is technically the largest living organism in the world. If you take into account that every single one of these trees has the exact same DNA, They are literally clones of each other. It is one tree, but part of it is underground. Like these trees here and these trees here, all part of Pando. If you went and took the DNA from each tree, it is identical. They're all one tree connected underneath the ground. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That's the neat thing about it. So what's next? We've got one of the biggest tree and then the biggest organism. Now we have the fastest growing. Can you guess? Yes, it's bamboo. Bamboo is one of the fastest growing plants in the world. If given the right conditions, the right sunlight, the right soil, the right water, it can grow up to a foot a day. That's good when you have a thick forest like this that are quite often eaten by one particular critter, the panda. Yes, they love eating the bamboo. It's one of their only prime food sources that they eat. And so because they exclusively eat this plant, they eat a lot of it. Luckily, the plant can keep up with that. So you might say the plant can grow fast because the panda is eating it, or does a panda eat them because they can grow fast? But here's a neat picture of how it goes. These people planted this little shoot, called a bamboo shoot. That 12 there indicates 12 inches, and the 5 there indicates 5 days. After 5 days of growth, this is how big it is. After 9 days of growth, look, you can see it's well over the 12. When I said a foot a day, I meant like when it's at its prime, it's really, really high. It's not going to grow that fast, of course, when it's this small. There we are at 12 days. Now we're up to 3 feet in only 12 days. Now we're up to 6 feet in 15 days. You can see extra shoots coming out of it. This is 19, and I can't see how big it is. I'm thinking it's 9 feet by the looks of that piece. Now, they did this for up to 23 days, was just almost 3 weeks. And after that time, boom, look at the stick. The stick is dwarfed by how tall it is. And so it's massive, and that's in 3 weeks. So if a panda ate that to the ground, wandered around, ate some more of the forest, and came back 3 weeks later, boom, it's ready to eat it again. So it's magnificent how fast it grows. It's really kind of cool. There's a neat chart here that shows it as well. There's for a single cane, like you just saw. This is how fast it grows. It really hits about day 16. You can see it really comes into its own and really starts going fast. There's me at about 6'3". So that's about how tall it would be after 16 days. And then it just skyrockets after that. So pretty cool how fast those things can grow. What's the smallest? Yeah, I want to talk about the biggest, the baddest, the fastest growing. What about the smallest? The smallest is very small. Each one of these little tiny green things you see is an entire flowering plant. It's called watermeal. And it's tiny, tiny. As you can see, it's tiny, tiny, tiny thing. That is one entire plant. To qualify as a plant, it had to be a flowering plant, as they said, and this is the flowering watermeal. That little tiny circle you see in the middle is a flower with one pistil and one stamen, and that's it. And those are the reproduction organs of the flowers. And there's a picture of it beside a sewing needle and a grain of salt. So it's not even 1 millimeter wide. Amazing. That's it, the smallest plant in the world. And as you can see, as you saw in the other picture, they grow by the thousands, hundreds of thousands in the right conditions. Oh, what's this? This is the largest individual flower you will be able to find in the wild. It's called the corpse lily. And it's called the corpse lily because of how it smells. Here's a picture of 2 kids near a corpse lily. They're huge. That is not Photoshop. That's how big they are. And those kids must have pretty good noses because it smells awful. Here's a clip here that sometimes, like I've told you before, if the clip says it even better than I can say it, here's a nice little video clip.
It was given the scientific name of Rafflesia arnoldi after the 2 British men in 1821. The stinking corpse lily, being the largest flower in the world, can reach 3.4 feet or 1 meter in diameter, weighs 24 pounds or 11 kilograms. They grow very much like a cabbage, a very dark, almost black at first, eventually taking on a bright red, which takes a full year before they unwrap their petals and bloom. 90% of these buds won't reach maturity, but when they do flower, blooms last just a week before they die off and rot away. Once unwrapped, warty petals are revealed, which have a similar appearance to what they smell like. The inner core is hairy and almost alien-like, which emits a rotten fish smell. that consists of volatile organic compounds such as sulfur. This smell attracts carrion flies, to which will pollinate it.
So yes, it attracts insects by smelling horrible. And the insects will then land on it, probably get a little bit of meal of nectar, and then fly off the next one that smells horrible. So we may not like the smell, but the insects do, and that's how they get pollinated. That was the largest individual flower. So I'd like to thank you all for taking part in my last botany lesson. I hope you learned some more cool stuff, and I hope you learned a lot about plants through the entire thing, from the beginning where we looked at the fruits, the roots, and all that to now. Until I see you again, you guys take care, and